Hi, I'm Jesse Waters, and this evening for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Let's get right to our top story. Will there be a new nuclear arms race under President Trump? The president-elect raised the possibility yesterday with this tweet. The United States must greatly strengthen and expand its nuclear capability until such time as the world comes to its senses regarding nukes. This morning, he apparently doubled down even further during a phone call to a reporter.
Mika asked the president-elect, while we had the opportunity, what his position was on trying to clarify the tweet yesterday regarding the nuclear arsenal, and the president-elect told you what?
Let it be an arms race. We will outmatch them at every pass.
And outlast them all.
And outlast them all.
That report sparked a frenzy, with the media jumping on members of the Trump team to explain.
What does let it be an arms race mean?
Well, I think it goes back to what I just said with respect to the tweet that he put out. He is going to do what it takes to protect this country. And if another country or countries want to threaten our safety or sovereignty, he's going to do what it takes.
Sure, but he's not waiting until another country threatens us. He's making these proclamations.
He's making it very clear. No, right, but he's making it very clear that other countries and other companies, you've seen with Kerry and others, he's going to make it clear that he will be an active president that will get things done.
That said, Spicer also admitted that the arms race comment was a private conversation that he wasn't really privy to. Joining us now to clarify further, Anthony Scaramucci, a member of the Executive Committee for President-elect Trump's transition team. So it looks like what happened, he sends out this tweet. He establishes a powerful nuclear position, and it's something he said during the campaign. And then all of a sudden he gets in some conversation with people on another channel in their pajamas. Who knows how they teed him up. Yeah. He didn't say he wants an arms race. He says if they want it, let them have it because we're going to win it. Is this just sloppiness on the Trump team, or is this one of those manufactured controversies?
Well, it's probably a little manufactured. I'm just super glad that we're not in pajamas right now, because I know your pajamas are better than my pajamas, Jesse.
Yes, they're plaid and very comfortable.
Yeah, and I've got the ugly sweater situation going on. But what I would say to you about the situation is the president-elect understands something about peace through strength. He has studied the Reagan policies and the Reagan doctrine, and he's got a team of advisors around him that understand that a muscular America, an America that is bold in the world and the global community, or to use a Bill O'Reilly phrase, they're bold and fresh, yes, as an example, is very good for the world. And I think that these signals that the president-elect is sending out are reassuring to our allies, and I think there's enough trepidation in our adversaries where they say, wait a minute, this guy really means business. He's not in the Obama doctrine of retraction and leading from behind. And so I think the message that the president-elect was trying to get out to Mika or others is that we're going to be tough, we're going to be strong, we're going to be proactive. And listen, we're not going to back down in a nuclear situation or any other situation. He is the last person, however, that would put us in a nucular conflagration. And I said that pretty well, didn't I?
I think you did.
That's a big point, because Mika's face, with that body language, is very bad. Mika, nothing's going to happen. This guy's going to protect you and your family. I think you got to send that message to people.
Yes, Mika will be safe, and so will her pajamas.
Yes.
We also have a nuclear arms race going on right now. I don't think people want to admit it, but on the Korean Peninsula, you have situation. China's nuking up. We just gave the Iranians $150 billion to do God knows what. We have Pakistan and India going at each other. I think the Russians want to modernize their warheads. So it's already happening, but I think the phrase arms race has a psychological effect, and that's why everybody goes crazy.
Look, it reminds people of the Cold War, the anxiety that we all felt in the Cold War. It's not the best of phrases for peace, but I think what the president-elect was trying to say is that I'm going to get us to a place of peace through strength. He's spending a lot of time with Dr. Kissinger. You and I know that Dr. Kissinger's protege is von Metternich, and in those principles, and remember for your viewers out there, von Metternich was the Isaac Newton of foreign policy. What did he say? We need a strong hegemonic power to suppress the internecine conflict in the world, and that's what the president understands, and he's going to project that on January 20th.
And also, one of Trump's principles is take a very firm, strong, powerful first position, and then negotiate from a position of strength after your adversaries react to you. He did that with the Taiwan call. He did that with the wall along the Mexican border.
And I think
he's done it with the Muslim ban, and I think it's been effective.
And he wants Mika safe, drinking her coffee in the morning,
yes,
where she doesn't have to worry about things. And so having a leader like that is going to make her more safe, not less safe.
That's true. A lot of people don't know this, but President Obama has already signed off on a $1 trillion nuclear modernization program. That's a lot of dough. And President Obama doesn't like to spend a lot of money on the military. He's already upping the ante to the tune of $1 trillion, which is going to take this country to the next half of the 21st century. He's also reduced our nuclear warhead capabilities less than any other president in the last 3 or 4 terms. No one knows that. So when Donald Trump comes out and he says he wants to modernize, everybody goes crazy. But Obama's already trying to do it, and it's already on the table.
And if you remember that 60 Minutes piece maybe a year and a half ago where we've got 1960s rotary phones in missile silos, we've got to fix this problem. And so both presidents, you have to give them both credit for that. They both understand that modernization is very necessary. Listen, the Russians and the Chinese are modernizing. They may, in fact, be ahead of us on some technology. And we don't want to be in that position. We want to be in a forward-thinking position, aggressive position, but a peaceful position, Jesse, and that's the goal.
The Democrats are all for modernizing the roads and bridges and all of the internet capacity, but they don't want to do anything with the warheads. I think that's a safe thing to do. The communication strategy, let's talk about that for a second. Before, you have some traditional commander-in-chief like President Obama. There's 6 cooks in the kitchen. Everyone's poring over every word, every phrase. You have academics and everything trying to boil up the correct line to then deliver at the Rose Garden. Now it looks like you're going to have Commander-in-Chief Donald Trump.
Communicator-in-chief.
Communicator-in-chief. He's going to send out a tweet, and people are going to have to work backwards from there. Do you see any advantages and disadvantages to that new communications dynamic?
Well, I mean, I guess the tiny issue with the working backwards is I think people really know his personality pretty well at this point. And so when I read those tweets, I have my own lexicon of understanding where he's going. And I think the 4 people that he just named on the communications team do as well. I think that the gist of what happened during the election season is going to be slightly modified now. I think the candidate as president is going to be way more presidential and way more precise than people think. That's my prediction.
All right, so you're now on the executive committee for this transition team.
Yeah.
What's going on behind the scenes here?
You must like your job because I didn't see your resume up there.
You know what? I was thinking about taking a trip over to the towers and doing the revolving door just to kind of help my negotiating position here at Fox. I thought it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't want to take the pay cut.
Well, I'm not your agent, but I think that was good for you.
I would agree. What's going on behind the scenes with the transition now? I mean, in the beginning, the transition was, everyone was saying it was a knife fight and it was just very dramatic. But now it looks like you only have 2 more cabinet positions to name. Agriculture and Veterans Affairs. Where are we now in the transition? Well, we're in a good place or what?
I came out with Eric Bolling on this very show and said that was unfair. I'm working inside the system.
Yeah.
I didn't see that knife fight. And if you see the process here, we're well ahead of where people thought we'd be. We've got 2 picks left, VA and Agriculture, both of which the president-elect will announce shortly, probably after the holidays. At the end of the day, you have a world-class cabinet. I talked to the president-elect yesterday, and he said he is super charged up about this cabinet. He's got some of the best, most talented people in the country that are going to help prosecute his agenda. What could be better than that?
Is President-elect Trump going to name Tiger Woods to any of the cabinet positions? Because he was out there golfing with him today. Did you see that?
I have 5 hours on the golf course. That's great. We know that the president-elect gets his exercise by playing golf.
Okay.
So we want him to play golf. We want him to stay healthy.
So Tiger's not going to be the new VA secretary?
I don't know. You got to ask the president.
Oh, okay. You're leaving that open as a possibility.
I'm not a thunderclap stealer, Jesse. Okay? When the thunder claps, it's going to be from Donald J. Trump.
All right. Very smart move. All right. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Up next, reaction to all the talk of a possible arms race. Plus, Vladimir Putin sends a letter to Donald Trump for the holidays. We'll tell you what it says and what it means going forward for the relationship between Russia and the U.S. Right back with it. In the Impact segment tonight, despite all the talk from both sides about expanding nuclear capabilities, President-elect Trump today released what he called, quote, a very nice letter that he received from Russian President Putin. In it, Putin extends warm greetings for Christmas and the New Year, but also says he hopes Mr. Trump will act in, quote, a constructive and pragmatic manner to take real steps to restore the framework of bilateral cooperation. And in an early morning press conference today, Putin downplayed Mr. Trump's comments about nukes.
Regarding the newly elected President Trump, there's nothing new. He was saying during his campaign about the importance of strengthening the nuclear aspect of the United States, about strengthening the military forces. There's nothing unusual.
Joining us now from Palm Springs, former U.S. spokesman at the United Nations, Rick Grinnell. And from Washington, David Tafuri, former State Department official. So Putin and Trump are pen pals now. It's very cute. I'd love to see that. They're probably going to be retweeting each other one of these days. It seems like Putin kind of poured cold water on this arms race controversy. You know, what I can't understand, Rick, is the left will say that Trump and Putin are best friends and they're going to be riding on horseback naked with each other. And then on the other hand, they're saying Trump and Putin are on this nuclear collision course. I just can't get it straight. Which one is it?
Well, clearly this letter was a signal that both sides want to reset the relationship. It hasn't been working. And look, we're dealing with a situation where the current president, President Obama, has been mocking those who thought that Russia was some sort of a threat. And also, President-elect Trump is having to deal with the fact that President Obama has rolled back missile defense throughout Eastern Europe. So we're dealing with a deficit. So I think that the pronouncements coming out saying that we want peace through strength, we really don't want an arms race, and then having President Putin agree that they really can't have an arms race. It was an admission that their economy is not that great. They've tried to modernize already, but they are going to have to end that because they just don't have the money. So it was an admission, I think, on President Putin's part that if there was some sort of a U.S. Commitment to modernize our nuclear weaponry, that we would win it. That the United States would win it because the Russians can't compete because of their economy.
Yeah, no, they're broke as a joke because one of the reasons is that we slapped sanctions on them after the Ukraine invasion. But, David, let me ask you this. There's two schools of thought here. One school of thought is that this ex-KGB Putin guy is just playing mind games with this naive businessman, Donald Trump, and he's bending him into doing whatever Russia wants, and he's going to take full advantage. And then there's the other school of thought that says, you know, you have this businessman and pragmatist Donald Trump that's coming in. He's a very keen negotiator, and he just wants to warm relationships a little bit better because the last 8 years have been pretty frigid between President Obama and Vladimir Putin, and there's really not a lot wrong with that. Is that how you see it?
Well, you know, all this is a little bit stupefying. You know, Trump is rattling the saber, saying he wants to have an arms race, which is a really silly thing to do. Yes, Trump is right. We should strengthen our military. I
don't think he said he wants an arms race, excuse me. He just said if there is an arms race, let's have at it because we're going to win it.
Why is he even talking about an arms race? When you want to strengthen your military forces, you do so quietly, wisely, and effectively. You don't brag about it. You don't try to provoke other countries.
Well, it's funny that you say that because when he was asked about his strategy to defeat ISIS, he says he wasn't going to share it because he wants to remain unpredictable, and that's not what General Patton would do. And then he was mocked by the liberal foreign policy establishment. So which one is it? Do you want him to tell us what he wants to do, or do you want us to not tell him? Well, I can't figure it out.
Look, I just got back from Iraq last week. You know, the strategy against ISIS is actually going pretty well. I think the reason people criticize Trump is because he had no strategy on ISIS. He said he was keeping it secret as a way to hide the fact that he didn't have one. He doesn't understand the situation.
As I recall, President Obama said he didn't have a strategy to defeat ISIS either. Rick, tell me about this. The arms race phrase. I mean, it sets off a lot of alarm bells with people. They think, you know, they're ducking under their desks in the Cold War in the 1950s. Was that a bad phrase to use, especially on a phoner with some host in pajamas on MSNBC?
I don't think so at all, and President Putin didn't take offense to it. I think that it does conjure up thoughts of the past. But look, I think that we're dealing with the reality right now where the Russians have talked President Obama out of having a missile defense shield. So we've got to modernize. We've got to catch up. We're going to be playing catch up for a while. So I think President-elect Trump is absolutely correct in trying to signal to not only the Russians but to the American people and to Congress and to everybody else that we are going to modernize. And you can criticize him for that, but peace through strength has obviously worked, and that's the policy that President-elect Trump is going to pursue.
And Putin also said some other things, David, about some Democrats. Hillary Clinton said she was a sore loser, and that President Obama is a divider and not a uniter. What do you think's going on with Putin? I mean, there's a lot of bad blood here. Is this a personal thing? It seems pretty personal, doesn't it?
Well, this is very interesting. All of our intelligence services believe that Putin and Russia interfered in our election. It's odd now that he is criticizing the Democrats and talking about them being sore losers when he and his country attempted and probably did interfere in our election. So they tried to make what he wanted to happen come true. I don't know why he's talking about our internal politics, but all I know is Russia should have nothing to do with our internal politics.
That's true, and it's very easy to not be a sore loser when you can basically imprison your political opponents like they do in Russia. Guys, thank you very much. When the Factor returns, Italian cops killed a Berlin terrorist during a shootout outside a deserted train station. We will have the latest. Plus, let's look at how open borders in Europe allowed the terrorists to slip through. In the Unresolved Problems segment tonight, Germany is still on alert, even as the Tunisian man suspected in the deadly attack in Berlin has been killed. Anis Amri was taken out by Italian police earlier this morning during a shootout in Milan. And Italian officials say he almost certainly passed through France to get there. In fact, Amri was able to easily travel through Europe before the attack. O'Reilly recently talked with Senator Ted Cruz about the dangers of Europe's open borders.
As you know, the EU has open borders. Anybody goes where any refugees flooding in. Nobody knows who's coming, who's going.
Hours after Amri was killed, video emerged of him pledging allegiance to ISIS. With me now, Jonathan Gilliam, a former Navy SEAL who was also a special agent for the FBI. So, Jonathan, it looks like this guy came over in some lifeboat across the Mediterranean from North Africa and Tunisia, landed in Italy, and was in the continent for a long time, was even being watched, wasn't he?
Well, he even tried to burn a school down, or did burn a school down in Italy.
Yeah.
So this is the individual that took full advantage of this migration to come in. And as you can see, he does not mold well with a free society.
And he certainly does not.
Right. And so that's going to be the case with these migrants.
And he was coming across multiple borders, France, Germany, Italy. How does someone go undetected like that? Because I remember when I was traveling throughout those countries when I was just a young lad, it was tough getting across on the train. These guys with the big boots and the AKs come by and they, papers please. It's a serious deal. How'd the guy slip through the cracks?
I don't know if it's quite that serious now. I mean, the reality is these have become, where we have sanctuary cities like in New York, and we have illegals walking around here all over the place. These are sanctuary countries. And I really think that these socialistic, ultra-liberal leaders believe that it's like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where you take somebody out of the inner city and bring them to Beverly Hills and there's not going to be any problems. Well, you can't take somebody or large groups of people out of the Middle East and expect them just to migrate and coexist. So they have created basically a terrorist dream to where they don't even have to work hard to get through the countries, which used to be the hardest part of the process of planning one of these operations, was getting people logistically in.
And they're gaming the system, too, because once he was here, he had about 6 or 7 different types of ID. They were trying to get rid of him or something like that, but he had all this fake paperwork, and that's why they couldn't get him. Doesn't this drive home the point you cannot vet these guys well if they're just going to lie to your face like that?
One, you can't vet people who live in a third world country. It's practically impossible. Secondly, the way the technology is that they have, these are not dumb people. You know, they have whole organizations that work to get these credentials for them. So they get these things, and they can just move openly through these countries to a point where the hardest part is now getting the credentials, not getting logistically into the place to do an operation.
Do you believe Europe is waking up to this? Because this is, what is this, a dozen attacks on the continent? I mean, Europe spilled a lot of blood the last century. Now it's these attacks on civilians you're seeing almost every couple of months now. You see it in Belgium, you see it in France and in Germany. Are they going to wake up and say enough is enough and institute some sort of crackdown on the border? Or what can they do, do you think? Because, I mean, they can get tough if they want to.
Sure. Look, Trump has set the example. You put warriors in place where warriors need to think about what needs to be done. If you only have academics and elitists telling people how to fight terrorism, you're never going to be able to win the fight. I mean, that's the case. You have to have a strategic plan how to defeat the enemy. They don't have that to begin with. They don't want to name the enemy. They don't have a strategic plan. And so academics have really tried to maneuver their special interest into this, and it's just not working.
I mean, France vicious in Indochina back in the day, vicious in Africa.
Right.
The Germans were pretty rough and tumble in South Africa. You know, the Italians just a few years ago were setting up black sites for President Bush to do some harsh interrogation on some of these al-Qaeda guys. They have it in them.
Right.
They've had it in them in the past. I mean, how much blood has to be spilled?
Well, unfortunately, I think more blood is going to have to be spilled. The people are starting to see it. I think the Germans, people I talked to in Germany and Italy, they see it. But I can't understand. There's an easy solution for this. Get with the Middle Eastern countries, force them to put up safe havens, help them do it, and don't bring any more of these people out of the Middle East. They don't need to exist outside of their culture.
Right.
Unless they want to.
Okay, so you're saying keep them in the Middle East.
Sure.
And it's not a Muslim ban, but set up safe zones in those communities so they don't come to the homeland.
Why do we have to take people out of their homes and give them another home when we could literally give them places to live over there? I mean, what's happening in West Virginia is a perfect example. They're bringing refugees to West Virginia. They're going to give them housing. Meanwhile, there's still people living in tents in West Virginia because the flood happened and there's people homeless there.
You're right. No, it's a recipe for disaster. I was just in West Virginia, and no one has anything. And, you know, people are coming over willy-nilly and they're getting handouts. One of the reasons Trump won, people see it's a rigged system and it's just unfair. I think Islam has a problem here because the people that are obeying the laws, the wealthy people in these Muslim communities that want to go to Europe, they want to travel to America, and they want to work hard, they're going to get screwed over because these radicals are making it so difficult for people in their countries to do business internationally and travel internationally. They have to fix their own house, get their own house in order, or else they're going to start paying the price. They're not going to be able to go anywhere.
Jesse, I've been saying this since I left the Bureau a little over 3.5 years ago. Islam is the biggest solution for the problems in Islam. If they don't fix their problems, then they're going to be part of the problem, and Muslims need to realize that. They need to look at the fact that there's Muslims that can coexist, there's Islamists that are fundamentalists that do not want to coexist, and then out of those Islamists come jihadists. They have the problem, they need to fix it, and if they're not going to, then they need to step out of the way and let warriors fix it, because that's what's going to end up happening.
You're exactly right, Jonathan. Thank you very much.
You got it.
All right, plenty more ahead as the Factor moves along this evening. One of the greatest college basketball coaches of our time, John Calipari, steps into the no-spin zone and talks political correctness, the Kaepernick controversy, and how to discipline athletes. Also, get out the violin. Sounds like President Obama may be feeling a bit sorry for himself as he gets ready to leave office. We hope you stay tuned for those reports.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Patricia Stark. The brother of Carrie Fisher says the actress is now in stable condition. Fisher was flying from London to Los Angeles when she suffered a heart attack before landing. She was then rushed to a hospital in critical condition after her plane touched down. The 60-year-old actress and author is best known for her role as Princess Leia in the Star Wars films. She had been filming in London for a series for Amazon. Well, the Air Force flying way below its goals. It says there's a personnel shortage and it needs another 30,000 airmen in the next 5 to 6 years. The Armed Services Branch continues to conduct most of the strike missions against ISIS and says it needs more personnel for intelligence and maintenance jobs. Right now, there's roughly 317,000 airmen in the Air Force. I'm Patricia Stark, and now back to the O'Reilly Factor.
In the Factor follow-up segment tonight, protests during the national anthem at sporting events have made their way from professional playing fields to college campuses. Bill recently spoke with John Calipari, head coach of the University of Kentucky men's basketball team, about how he's handling his players in the middle of all this PC madness. Mr. Calipari is the author of the brand new bestseller, Success is the Only Option.
So, Coach, here's what I want to know. Has the chaos on college campuses filtered down to your team? The politically correct madness, Black Lives Matter, Trump-Clinton election, has that filtered into your squad?
It's not been crazy on our campus right now, but I will tell you, we talk as a team, as a group. I bring up the stuff. When things happen in our country, I want to talk about it with these guys because sometimes they're into their phones and their iPads, and they're not paying attention to some of these things, and I think they need to be.
Okay, when a guy like Colin Kaepernick kneels down for the national anthem, every athlete knows that within a minute. Has that come up in your discussions?
Before our first game, I talked about it for 2 or 3 days. If anybody has an issue, I need you to talk to me about it. Let's talk about this. See, it's different. NBA, NFL is different than an 18, 19-year-old who is not, they don't know who they are as a person, let alone a basketball player. My job is to educate them. And their job is to understand that unless you agree with the entire cause, you're not moving in that direction. It's like my own son retweeting something, and I'm like, why'd you do that? Well, I just retweeted it. No, you're saying you agree. You need to know the full thing. So that's the first part of this.
So nobody, the University of Kentucky basketball team said, listen, I want to not stand up during the national anthem, or I want to give the Black Power salute, or anybody. You haven't had that?
No, but I also went through, there's a consequence to some of this stuff.
Would you allow it, Coach? If somebody sat down during the national anthem, would you allow it?
I would know it was going to happen before it happened.
And what would you say?
Well, I would say, look, I'm going to support you, but you're going to have consequences now.
But you would allow it?
Well, what am I going to do? If I'm standing there with my hand on my heart and the guy down 7 ends up kneeling, I've got to deal with it. Look, I'm dealing with, again, someone's son that my job is to educate. My job is to make sure they know the consequence to what they're doing. To know.
But Kaepernick knows the consequence. But you asked me, well, what can I do? Here's what I would do if I were a coach. And if I weren't doing this, I think I would be a coach, probably football. I would say to my college kids, look, you're representing the school, not just yourself. And if you want to protest something, we'll give you that opportunity to do so, but not during the game, and that includes the national anthem. So if you don't want to stand up, stay in the locker room, come out after the national anthem. That's what I would do. Fair?
Probably fair, but again, I would tell you that educating these kids on what this is about. I've talked to them about, if you believe in something, you can make a stand without offending the whole world. You can do things.
Yeah, there are ways to do it, sure.
And that's, so I think you and I are speaking the same language.
What about discipline? You don't see a lot of discipline on college campuses anymore, not just in the athletic realm, but just in general. Kids run wild, do what they want, burn the American flag, jump up and down. They need safe rooms. They you know, come on. When you and I were, it was like totally ridiculous. Do you have a line that you draw, and do you threaten these kids if they do certain things, they're out of here? Do you do that?
Well, again,
tough love.
I got to protect them against themselves sometimes. So we have curfew. I'm telling you, Kentucky's not for everybody. There's 11 o'clock curfew. If you're out, you're not playing. I have to do stuff to protect these kids because, again, you got parents giving me their child.
Sure.
And they're extremely talented, and I talk about that in the book. I'm not afraid to coach them. I'm challenging them. But in the same sense, wow, they got this thing going, and I got to protect them against themselves and sometimes against others.
How many kids do you lose? I mean, you recruit, they come in. How many kids just, won't play it your way?
Very few, because the recruiting process weeds that out.
Okay.
So if I walk in a home and a young man is disrespectful to his mother or his grandmother, I'm out. He's not going to be respectful to me or the rules
It's
or
interesting
anything
you
else.
didn't say father. Well, most of them are in mom or grandma homes, right?
Yes, but I will say this. Some of the best kids I've coached were raised by their mother or grandmother. Even better, because sometimes fathers trying to live through.
Yeah, it's not a lost leader, but it's interesting that you said that. The book is Success is the Only Option, and certainly Coach Calipari has tremendous success. And it's great to have you in here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Directly ahead, is President Obama feeling sorry for himself as he wraps up his time in office? We'll let you hear what he said, and you can decide for yourself in a moment.
The O'Reilly Factor, the #1 cable news show for 16 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Jesse Waters in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the personal story segment tonight, is President Obama playing the victim card as he gets ready to leave office? Here's what he said in a recent interview with NPR.
I had to live through controversies like the notion that I was trying to kill Christmas, right? Well, where'd that come from? Well, Well, he said Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas. So that, that must be evidence of him either not being a Christian or not caring about Christmas. It sounds funny now, but you'll have entire debates in conservative circles around that.
Joining me now with a reaction, Democratic pollster Jessica Tarlov and Lisa Booth, a Fox News contributor who also writes for the Washington Times. Live through controversies. Woe is me. As a matter of fact, the war on Christmas is probably the only war President Obama has ever won. Jessica.
How long have you been waiting to say that one, Jessica?
Is this a real story? I mean, I don't remember anybody saying that he was initiating a war on Christmas. Do you?
Yes, I remember many people saying that, and I see all the time in my Twitter feed when I say Happy Holidays, just because I want to be inclusive. I have no Christmas problem. I love my red cup. I like it all.
Can you name one person who's said that Obama's waging a war on Christmas?
I've heard many people on these airwaves talking about it. I've been on panels talking. Is this really happening?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't said it. I don't remember anybody saying that Obama's waging a war on Christmas.
On Cash and In, for sure. It's been something that we've talked about, how there was a guy in Texas, I remember, who owns a diner, who said that he was put up unapologetically a Merry Christmas sign because he was sick of people defending other religions over Christianity and
I do recall, people saying this or that about the Christian stuff, but this guy is so sensitive. He is the most thin-skinned person I've ever seen, besides me, of course. Why is this guy doing all these exit interviews and whining, do you think?
I honestly just think, and he's also blamed Fox News, he's blamed Rush Limbaugh for vilifying his policies, and that's the reason why some of them haven't been popular. I mean, I just think the president is having an incredibly difficult time, along with the bulk of the Democratic Party, with the reeling loss of the election. I mean, I think that Hillary Clinton and President Obama completely thought that she was ultimately going to win. They're very surprised.
They were not alone in thinking that.
But I also think that they realized that the election was also a rejection of President Obama's policies. And look, he's blaming, all these different things for the rejection of his policies. But look no further than the fact that insurance premiums have increased by 30% in states like Pennsylvania and Arizona. Places, some policies have increased 116%.
Right.
He's tried to decimate entire industries and workers, like the coal industry. So these are the things that drove the election. It was jobs, the economy, it was the rejection of President Obama's policies.
I understand that, and he has a very high approval rating, I think, because he's a personable guy that people do actually like. And I know people get a bump as they're on their way out. We do know that overall healthcare costs are not rising as high as they did in the 10 years before Obamacare. But I just want to say, as a bit of sympathy for this moment, this man is being succeeded by a birther who said that he founded ISIS.
Wait a second. You want us to feel sorry for President Obama?
I just
the
want
most
you to
powerful
take a
man in the
moment.
world, who's been there for 2 terms, who did everything he wanted. We're supposed to feel sorry for him. He wanted the job.
Yeah, he
asked
wanted
for
the
it
job.
twice.
He did. And I think he did a good job, and I think history is going to be kinder to him than these conversations right now.
I'm not so sure about that, because I think the president's legacy, I think the only place you're going to see that is his library. Because Obamacare is going to be gone, the Iran deal is going to get ripped up. There's not a lot left after 8 years once Trump gets into office.
And here's the thing, too. There's a notion that has been proven wrong this election cycle. There's this entire notion, because Republicans won back the majorities in the House and the Senate in 2010 and 2014, that Republicans couldn't win a national election. But what we found out from this election is that the Democratic Party has actually been propped up by the personal likability of President Obama, but his policies and the party as a whole have been rejected by massive margins. You look at just the losses at the state legislature. Yes, Democrats hold fewer state legislatures than ever before.
That's absolutely true. But when you look at the numbers on the actual policies.
Republicans also have the majority of governorships across the country, the House and the Senate, and now the White House. So you guys have seen, the Democratic Party has seen historic losses under President Obama.
I don't remember Bush or Clinton complaining this much when they left during these exit interviews. I think these exit interviews are designed to kind of cement the legacy, see kind of looking back what I did, and kind of coast into the sunset. What I see from this president, President Obama, he seems angry. Seems a little upset.
Really sad.
Seems emotional.
Yeah.
A little hurt. Is that the kind of way you expect him to go out?
The same kind of candidate. I mean, Donald Trump ran one of the nastiest candidates.
Well, he's responsible for being followed by a candidate like Donald Trump. I mean, President Obama paved the way for a guy like Trump. He's got a little responsibility here.
Listen, he's taken it, and in that interview, he also talked about how important it is for Democratic candidates to get out there and to go into the diners and the drive-bys and to talk to real Americans. He did support Hillary Clinton in it, but we've heard Joe Biden criticize her recently, saying that she didn't have a message and that she didn't get out there and talk to white working-class voters. Democrats, we have a lot of work to do.
But the Democratic Party refuses to face that reality.
Really? Because I'm sitting right here facing it.
Yes, but you aren't Democratic leaders. What do they do? They reelected Nancy Pelosi, who's responsible for historic losses.
Tim Ryan was not the right choice
in the House. The Democratic Party seeks to elect someone like Keith Ellison, who has made blatantly racist comments that are going to fly in the face of what a lot of voters.
Let's get back to Christmas before we wrap this up, though, ladies. Here's what I want to say. I have noticed, and just going around, because I go to a lot of diners, and I'm in and out of the mall all the time, people are now saying Merry Christmas. I believe it has something to do with Donald Trump. We used to say Happy Holidays a lot under President Obama. He's still complaining about it. It's nothing personal. People are saying Merry Christmas again. You can see it on the streets. Have you guys not picked up on that?
I have. I mean, I've always said it all. I don't know, why is that so exciting? We also have Jews.
We're so excited about it. We get to say Merry Christmas again.
But I don't know. You can pick the
or
stock
Happy Kwanzaa. You can say Happy Kwanzaa too.
But you were excited about Christmas, and I'd like to unpack that further. There are people of all religions in this country, and Happy Holidays brings them all in.
Okay, well, we can say that too, but we're going to say Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Again.
Merry Christmas, Jesse and Lisa.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Up next, one of the biggest stars of his time sits down for a fascinating interview with Bill O'Reilly. You don't want to miss this one. Right back with it. The actor and singer Bobby Rydell was one of the biggest teen idols in history, with a career that spanned more than 60 years. After addiction nearly cost him his life, Bobby was saved by an unlikely source and is back in action on stage. Bill recently spoke with Rydell about fame, fortune, and his new autobiography, Teen Idol on the Rocks, a tale of second chances.
So you would not be sitting here talking to me if not for a 21-year-old girl who was killed in an automobile situation. Is that correct?
That is correct. From Reading, Pennsylvania. Her name was Julia. And not only did she save my life, Bill, but she saved 6 other people as well.
Because she donated her organs. She was, I guess, killed by a hit-and-run driver?
Correct, yes.
And you got a liver?
Yes.
And kidney?
And a kidney, yeah.
I mean, looking at you now, you look healthy, you look vibrant, you're still on stage, you still perform.
Yeah.
Wild one, make you settle down.
Let's go back to Elvis Presley, right? Remember Elvis? You were a kid, right?
Vaguely.
Okay. So he comes on and he rocks the world, pardon the pun.
One through a party in the county jail.
And then his success leads to the other teen idols.
Yes, sure.
Paul Anka, all right? Frankie Avalon.
Correct.
Fabian. And you.
Yeah.
Around the world, I've searched for you. I traveled on when hope was gone to keep a rendezvous.
This whole phenomenon occurs when you're what?
17.
17?
17 years old. I had my first hit record the summer of 1959.
And how can a 17-year-old process this?
I guess it was all because of my dad, Bill. You know, at a very early age, my dad used to take me around to clubs in Philadelphia. When I was 7, 8 years old, I asked the club owner, is it okay if my son got up and sang a song and did a few impersonations? And, you know, that's all I remember.
The adulation, the girls screaming.
It was nice.
Was it good? Did you appreciate it?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Now, you didn't get involved with drugs and alcohol as many of the teen idols did as a younger man, right?
Correct, yes.
How?
I guess basically because of family, the upbringing with the family. You know, my dad was, you know, very, very instrumental in my career, and there was a lot of warmth, love, and respect in the family.
And you were living at home while you were a teen idol.
Yeah, I lived in South Philadelphia.
Why not take a
Then when you got older, you got into booze.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Extremely.
And that's what led to the failure of the kidneys and the liver intrusion.
That all started back in 2003. My first wife, Camille, we were married for 36 years. And she passed away in 2003 via breast cancer. And it was really hard to take, Bill. I mean, there was nobody to lay with anymore, nobody to joke with, nobody to laugh with, nobody to cry with, nobody to tell your stories to. And it hit me pretty hard, and I turned to the bottle.
So you were an alcoholic, you were drinking heavily almost every day, and then it destroyed your health.
Correct.
And this 21-year-old girl who died saved your life. You were as close to Justin Bieber as any of the teen idols. If you had advice for that kid, you know, he's in exactly the same spot you were in.
Yeah, I guess you're right, Bill. I would venture to say that, you know, first of all, you know, he was just about as young as I was. You know, he was 15 years old. But like the social media back then, we didn't have all that much. I think we had Dick Clark, American Bandstand, and that was about it. Now his mother puts him on YouTube, and he's all over the joint. And overnight, he becomes a multimillionaire. I don't know how a 15-year-old mind can handle that.
Now, it's amazing, but you and Frankie Avalon and Fabian still on the road.
Yeah.
You're good.
Thank you.
I mean, you're geezers, but you're good. You know?
K-E-Y-Y, because we love you.
Final question.
Yes, sir.
I'm jealous of you.
Why?
Because you were with Anne Margaret in her prime.
Yes, yes.
And you guys have stayed friends.
Over the years, matter of fact, in the book, Anne has a blurb in the book, and she read the book and she called me. She says, Bobby, I can't believe that all the stuff that you went through. And I thanked her. And we had a really nice conversation. And then I said at the end of the conversation, I said, Anne, back in 1963, I was 20, you were 21. Why the hell didn't we get married?
She's such a nice woman.
She is superb.
Right.
Now, is that the kiss of a woman interested in any other man?
Well, look, the book is very compelling for those of us who grew up with you and know what you've been through. And I'm glad you're feeling well and you're looking good, Bobby. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you, Bill.
Up next, some last-minute gift ideas as the clock ticks down to Christmas and Hanukkah.
We're live from the heart of Times Square, bringing celebrations all around the country, hearing from the people, the biggest musical performances, and your favorite Fox personalities. Kimberly Guilfoyle and Eric Bowling host live, and so much more. New Year's Eve. Our must-see coverage starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. Right here on Fox News Channel.
Before we go tonight, if you still don't have your Christmas and Hanukkah gifts bought, here are some ideas. Bill's massive bestseller, Killing the Rising Sun, makes an excellent present. Also, Bill's kids' book, Give Please a Chance, is #1 in its category and teaches a great lesson to the urchins. Yes, I just said urchins. And don't forget, if you go to BillO'Reilly.com and become a premium member, you can get any one of Bill's books absolutely free. Also, there are some new Contributing Factor podcasts out this week, including one featuring yours truly about the satanic display controversy down in Florida. You can also download the Contributing Factor podcast on BillO'Reilly.com and iTunes. And that is it for us tonight. I'm Jesse Waters in for Bill O'Reilly. And to all our Factor viewers, have a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, everybody. Please remember, I'm Waters, and this is my world.